Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Okay, may the Noble Triple Gem bless you all. Today also we are going to start another Dhamma discussion. So we have discussed a number of enlightenment factors so far. So now today we have to talk about um, the very last chapters about the factors of enlightenment, Bojjhanga Dhammas. Then we are going to talk about the Noble Eightfold Path. So last week that we discussed about the factors of enlightenment, the Bojjhanga Dharmas. So today we have some small chapters to finish. Let's see, 220 page we are going to discuss today. The healing power of the factors of enlightenment. It is not only the power of healing the mental diseases like greed. The factor of enlightenment have the healing power of the physical diseases as well. Once, Venerable Mahakassapa Thero was afflicted and dwelled in the cave named Pippali. The Tathagata, the Buddha, then went there to see him, and having inquired about his ailment, and preached the 7 factors of enlightenment, saying, Kassapa, these 7 factors of enlightenment have been well expounded by me, frequently practiced and developed again and again, which leading to the perfect knowledge, enlightenment and Nibbana. In Pali, Satyame Kassapa Bojjhanga Mayasamma Dakkahata Bhavita Bahulikata Abhinyaya Sambodhaya Nibbanaya Samvattati. So once Venerable Mahakassapa Thera was ill, so the Buddha visited him and questioned about his ailment. Then the Buddha talked about the 7 enlightenment factors, and after that he recited the Paritta. Let's see. When listen to this teaching of the Buddha attentively and respectfully with the great love, Venerable Mahakassapa was recovered as he was listening to the sermon by recollecting the nature of conduciveness to the emancipation of the dispensation of the Buddha. His mind was pleased. Then the blood became pleasant because of the wholesome forms of mentality and physicality. His whole body was rejoiced. From that, the disease he was afflicted with disappeared, like the drops of water on the lotus leaf. Once Venerable Moggallana was afflicted and lived on the mountain named Vulture's Peak, Gijukulupaur. The Tathagata, the Buddha, visited him too and delivered the discourse on the factor of enlightenment, and while listening to that, his ailment was cured. On one occasion, the Buddha himself was afflicted and lived in the bamboo monastery. Venerable Mahachunda visited him and recited the factors of enlightenment to the Buddha. He respectfully recited, Venerable Sir, the 7 factors of enlightenment have been well expounded by the Blessed One and frequently developed, cultivated, and made much of them lead to the perfect knowledge, enlightenment and Nibbana. etc. Having listened to him, the Blessed One's affliction was cured. Sattimi bhante bhojjanga bhagavata sammadakkhata bhavita bahuli kata abhinya sambodhaya nibbana samvattanti. Since there is a healing power in the factors of enlightenment, even today they are used as the protective recitals for healing. For those who know the factors of enlightenment and practice them can gain much benefits and blessings, specifically the time of their afflictions. As a practice, it is a good thing to chant the factors of enlightenment by the practitioners as healing method for the companions and supporters while they are afflicted with diseases. When chanted by a practitioner, one can gain more benefits than chanted by an ordinary person. So I think you may familiar with these sutras, which we can find in the Pirit Paritta, book of Paritta. So these three sutras are used for to gain physical well-being. When people get ill, people used to even monks used to recite and give the blessing. So there are three instances in the Buddha's time. These sutras, which included the Bojjhangas, the seven enlightenment factors, and ultimately the Arahantas and the Buddha himself was recovered from the illnesses after listening to the Bojjhanga Paritta. The method to be chanted, the factors of enlightenment. These chanting given in the Book of Protection are the way that the Buddha has preached to Venerable Mahakassapa and Mahamoggallana, and how chanted it by Venerable Mahachunda to the Buddha. Most people chant them to the patients as given in the book. Though it is not fruitless, it is not the better way to chant them to the patients. The better way is inserting the name of the patient to the chanting and chant it as your own chanting. If it is difficult to insert the name of the patient to the chanting, one should chant using the common names like Avso, Bhante, Upasaka, Upasika, etc. For example, suppose the name of the patient is Upatissa. This is how it is to be inserted and chanted in Pali. Sattimi upatissa bojjanga bhagavata samma dakkata bhavita bahulikata abhinyaya sambodhaya nibbānaya samvartati katame satta. Sati sambojjango ko upatissa bhagavata samma dakkato bhavito bahulikato abhinyaya sambodhaya nibbānaya samvartanti. Dhammavicaya sambojjango ko upatissa. Virya sambojjango ko upatissa. Piti sambojjango ko upatissa. Like that, the paritta should be chanted. So the Venerable Bhante has suggested a new fruitful method instead of using the original names in the paritta chantings. Venerable Bhante has suggested to insert the name, those who are afflicted, as mentioned before. These seven factors of enlightenment, upatis, have been rightly expounded by the Buddha. 1. When developed and cultivated, they lead to direct knowledge, to enlightenment, to Nibbana. What 7? The enlightenment factor of mindfulness has been rightly expounded by the Blessed One. When developed and cultivated, it leads to direct knowledge, to enlightenment, to Nibbana. The enlightenment factor of equanimity has been rightly expounded by the Blessed One. When developed and cultivated, it leads to direct knowledge, to enlightenment, to Nibbana. These 7 factors of enlightenment, Upatissa, have been rightly expounded by the Blessed One. When developed and cultivated, they lead to direct knowledge, to enlightenment, to Nibbana. When the chanting is done for a monastic, if it is disgraceful to use the name, if the patient is older than you, better you address him as Bhante and chant. If the patient is younger to you, then chant addressing also is a vocative case, as a vocative case. If the patient is a layman, address him the common name as Upasaka and chant. If the patient is a laywoman, chant addressing the common name Upasika. If the patient is a male infant, use the term Kumara. And if a female infant, use Kumarike, etc. and chant. So that is the way that the Paritta should be chanted, as Venerable Bhante suggested, inserting the names of afflicted ones. Names or the common names as Upasaka, Upasika, Bhante are also like that. So now let's move on to the... Yes?
Bhante, if you are chanting for yourself, how do you do that? Like we generally chant these suttas, so do you just chant them as it is? So
yes, Bhante says it's okay. I mean, it's still fruitful, but using the name is much beneficial. So I think we can use our own name, Sattime. And it's to be told, right? Yes. Yes, we'll see. Yeah, yeah. Okay, the Noble Eightfold Path. Monks, I will teach you the Noble Eightfold Path, and I will analyze it for you. Listen to that and attend closely, I will speak. Yes, Venerable Sir, those monks replied. The Blessed One said this. And what, monks? Is the Noble Eightfold Path right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration? This is a passage from the Discourse of Analysis, from the connected discourses on the path. Here we explain the Noble Eightfold Path as given in the discourse. These 8 factors, starting with right view, are the guiding principle for the attainment of Nibbana. Therefore, it is called the path leading to the cessation of discomfort. That is a stratagem of enlightenment in the world. As there are many paths to help the people to arrive in different places, this principle, that which is helpful for people to arrive to Nibbana, is called Magga. Magga in Pali and Marg in Sanskrit. Here the path means the principle or strategy. Since there are 8 factors, it is called the Noble Eightfold Path. It is through this path that one can eradicate all defilements and become a noble person. And the person is endowed with noble fruition. Therefore, it is called the Noble Eightfold Path. We can introduce three different meanings for the Noble Eightfold Path. They are the principle with 8 factors and completely free from defilements. The principle that has 8 factors and makes a person who practices it a noble one. The principle that has 8 factors and brings a noble fruitions to the person who practices it. As mentioned in the Puggala Panyati, those who have established on the states of paths and fruitions of the stream enterer, once returner, non-returner, and the Arahant are the noble 8 individuals, and others are the ignoble. Ignoble ones are the ordinary persons. Katamocha Puggalo Aryo. Attarya Puggala Arya Arya Avasesa Puggala Anarya. It is through this path that the ignoble becomes noble. This Noble Eightfold Path is the major 8 factors of the group of the 37 factors of enlightenment. When the Eightfold Path is developed and cultivated, in accordance with that, the other factors, such as the establishments of mindfulness, are also developed. Therefore, it is said, monks, just as various winds blow in the sky, easterly winds, westerly winds, northerly winds, southerly winds, dusty winds and dustless winds, cold winds and hot winds, gentle winds and strong winds. So too, when a monk develops and cultivates the Noble Eightfold Path, then for him the 4 establishments of mindfulness go to fulfillment. By development, the 4 right strivings go to fulfillment by development. The 4 bases for spiritual power go to fulfillment by development. The 5 spiritual faculties go to fulfillment by development. The 5 powers go to development by development. The 7 factors of enlightenment go to fulfillment by development. So as it says here, the factors of enlightenment, when we develop these factors, as mentioned, all the other factors, as we discussed before, they all are developed when we develop these specific 8 factors. Yes, the first one is right view, Samma Ditti. Monks, what is right view? Monks, the knowledge of dukkha, discomfort, the knowledge of the arising of dukkha, the knowledge of the cessation of dukkha, and the path heading to the cessation of dukkha. This is what is called right view. From this point, the 8 factors are dealt separately. Here, ditti means both seeing and understanding. Give me 1 second. Here, ditti means both seeing and understanding. Understanding is twofold, as right understanding and wrong understanding. Samma means right or perfect. Thus, when the two terms are combined, it gives the meaning of either right view or right understanding. Right understanding is also in manifold. There are 2 kinds of right views in this dispensation of the Buddha. They are right view of the ownership of karma, kammasakata sammaditthi. Right view of the 4 noble truths, chatusatcha sammaditthi. Of the 2 right views, Right view of the Noble Eightfold Path is a right view of the Four Noble Truths. That is why in the section of the analysis of the path, it is said that the knowledge of the dukkha, etc. Right view of the ownership of karma is knowledge of karma and karma phala. That is the everlasting right view in the world. The right knowledge of the Four Noble Truths is found only in the dispensation of the Buddha. He who has the right view of the Four Noble Truths has a right view of the ownership of karma as well. Since the one who knows the Four Noble Truths knows the fruition of karma, and there arises right view of the ownership of karma in the right view of the Four Noble Truths. Right view of the ownership of karma is supportive for the arising of that supernormal right view. Therefore, that should be developed first. Having established on that, one should strive on to develop right view of the Four Noble Truths. When explaining right view of the Four Noble Truths, the Four Noble Truths also should be explained. However, since it has been explained in the book named Chaturarya Satya by us, it is not explained here in details. The factors of the path are twofold, as mundane and supramundane. In the discourse of the analysis of the path, it has been mentioned in combined manner without this exposition. In the supramundane level, all the path factors arise together as a cluster simultaneously. In the mundane consciousness, all 8 factors of the path do not arise together. In such mundane consciousnesses, these five right view, right intention, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration arise together. In some consciousnesses, only 4 factors arise even without the factor of right intention. According to purity of morality, Sila Visuddhi, these 5 factors are added with one of the 3 factors like right speech, and thus arise 6 factors of the path together. For some supra-mundane consciousnesses, there arise 7 factors of the path except right intention. In case of mundane level, only 1 factor of the path arises in such consciousnesses. So it explains about the noble 8 factors and the worldly ones. So it says the worldly ones do not gain all the factors altogether. The 5 or maximum 6, as we know, there are something called virati chetasikas, abstinence. So all these 3 abstinence, the virati chetasika, do not um, appear in the same chitta, with the same chitta. They appear separately. For an example, once a person abstain from lying, at the same time he cannot abstain from stealing, something like that. They cannot abstain from all the 3 at the same time. But there are 5 can appear all the time for the worldly persons when they perform meritorious deeds like practicing dana, chanting, listening Dhamma talks, discussing Dhamma talks. So the 5 mental factors or the path factors can appear as mentioned here: the right view, right intention, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. So as we know, they are chetasikas. So when we refrain from unwholesome actions, one of those 3 virati or the abstinent chetasikas, one of them can appear with those five path factors, or the worldly or the ignoble people can get only six path factors at one time, while the noble ones get eight. But here there's a one saying that we have to pay attention. For some supra-mundane consciousness, there arise seven factors of the path except right intention. So that means that we know that some people can gain the noble chittas by attaining jhanas. Like those who have studied Abhidhamma know there are 40 the chittas, the lokuttara chittas, 40. So the second path factor, which is called samma sankappa, or the in as a mental factor, the vitakka chetasika, it does not appear in the second and the rest of the jhanas. So that's why it is mentioned as the seven factors. Some of the supramundane consciousness, there are seven factors. Right view or right knowledge of the Four Noble Truths, also in case of mundane level, do not arise all four simultaneously. Therefore, in case of mundane level, right view that sees the noble truth of discomfort is one, and the right view that sees the noble truth of arising of discomfort is another. Right view that sees the cessation of discomfort is still another, and the right view that sees the path heading to the cessation of discomfort is completely another. For the practitioner who strives to arouse right view, the first factor of the path arises the knowledge of discomfort, or right view when learning the truth of discomfort, practicing and contemplating upon it again and again, sharing it with others. So, about the Four Noble Truths, the same. In the one who gained the supramundane consciousness with all these eight factors, he can understand, he can have the knowledge about the Four Noble Truths at the same time, which is one of the very special abilities of the path consciousnesses, the Marga Chittas. But for ordinary people, ordinary minds cannot understand all the four noble truths simultaneously. They can develop them separately, as mentioned here. When learning, when studying, when sharing, then they can develop them separately. The second right view, which is known as the knowledge of the arising of discomfort, arises when the truth of the arising of discomfort is learning, contemplating, and sharing with others. The third right view, that which is known as the knowledge of the cessation of discomfort, arises when it is learning, contemplating, and sharing with others. The fourth right view, that which is known as the knowledge of the path, heading to the cessation of discomfort, arises when it is learning, contemplating upon, and sharing with others. In this manner, right view that arises separately in the mundane level develops gradually in such a way, and when arises at the supra-mundane path consciousness, combining with the other factors of the path, arises together as a realization of the Four Noble Truths at the supra-mundane level. According to the Dhamma, right view, is the mental state of wisdom, panya, that was explained earlier as a factor of investigation, um, as we've discussed, Viman Siddhipada, it is the same, the panya. Then road to power is Viman Siddhipada Dhamma Vichaya Sambojjhanga, the spiritual faculty of wisdom, um, Panya Indriya, spiritual power of wisdom, Panya Bala, and the factor of enlightenment of investigation of the Dhamma. So these all factors in ultimate sense, the one thing that is called the Panya, or the knowledge. So in the Eightfold Path, the right view is the mental factor of the Panya, or the wisdom. So that is about the right view, the very first path factor. So anything to be discussed about the right view?
No, Bhante. I think it's okay now, Bhante.
Okay. Okay, let's move on then. Right intention, samma sankappa. And what monks is the right intention? Intention of renunciation, intention of non-ill will, intention of harmlessness. This is called right intention. Katamocha bhikkhave samma sankappo, yoko bhikkhave samma sankappo, avyapada sankappo, avihinsa sankappo, ayang uchyate bhikkhave samma sankappo. Intention, sankappa, is another term for contemplation or thinking. There are numerous intentions among beings in the world. Among them, the intention of renunciation, the intention of non-ill will, and the intention of non-violence are the three right intentions of the Noble Eightfold Path. They are also called as applied thought, vitakka, of renunciation, applied thought of non-ill will, and applied thought of non-violence. These beings are bounded in samsara with the bonds of craving, with a lot of demerits done in the present, past, and with tendency to do endless demerits in the future as well, which cause to be reborn in hells again and again. And the nature of experiencing birth, decay, disease, death, sorrow, and lamentation, etc. Those who have knowledge and wisdom to understand the danger of this state contemplate to be released from the arising unwholesome things, and to be free from the bond of craving, like a person who is in the mine, in the midst of a wildfire, a person who is in a prison, a person who is besieged by a band of enemies, or like a fish that was entrapped in a trap, or a bird caught in a cage. The intention of renunciation is the thought of wise persons who contemplate to be released from the bond of craving. Moreover, the thought of renunciation of properties such as giving alms, the renunciation from sons and daughters, or referring to the state of going forth and dwelling in the woods and associating the secluded places, and contemplation on practicing both serenity and insight are called the intention of renunciation. The thoughts of obtaining wealth and properties, wife and children, food and drinks, vehicles, or regarding dancing, singing, or to be born in heavens in the future are called sensual thoughts, kama vitakka. Sensual thought is a way to extend samsara. The thought of renunciation destroys and abandons sensual thoughts, and it is the opposite of sensual thought. The intention of non-ill will is the thought of welfare and loving friendliness towards other beings and individuals. The intention of harmfulness to destroy other beings and individuals is the applied thought of ill will, vyapada vitakka. The intention of non-ill will is the opposite thing that destroys and abandons the thought of ill will. Non-violence is the intention of compassion to free others from discomfort. The thought of giving discomfort to the others is the thought of cruelty, vihimsa, vitakka. The intention of non-violence is the opposite of the thought of cruelty, which destroys and abandons the thought of cruelty. In accordance with the Dhamma, this right intention, that which is threefold, like the intention of renunciation, is one of the mental states of the 52 mental states. Normally, all mental development based on serenity and insight are against the threefold applied thoughts, like sensual thoughts. The thing to be done for the development of the factor of the path of the intention is the engagement of meditation. Since the applied thought of the practitioner who is endowed with the consciousness of meditation abandons sensual thoughts, it becomes the intention of renunciation. Since it abandons ill will, it becomes the intention of non-ill will. And it becomes the intention of non-violence because it abandons the thought of violence. The factor of the path of right intention that temporarily destroys the causes of sensual thoughts and endowed with consciousness of meditation gradually develops in the object of meditation. And at the time of the arising of the supramundane consciousness, it abandons the three causes, such as sensual thoughts, and combined with the other factors of the path, it arises as a supramundane state. In the world, the majority are those who are full of sensual thoughts, and those who have more and more thoughts of ill will and cruelty are the less. Even the thoughts that arise for the monks who have thoughts of building temples, raising disciples, and making delightfulness of the devotees are also mostly sensual thoughts. There is nothing to say about arising of sensual thoughts for lay persons. These thoughts, which arise for the monks to build temples, etc., perhaps may be the thought of renunciation, non-ill will and non-cruelty. The thoughts that arise for laypersons to arise and freed their wife and children, etc., are always sensual thoughts. One who is full of sensual thoughts should practice and develop meditation on repulsiveness in order to abandon it and develop the intention of renunciation. Contemplation or danger of sensual thoughts is also good. One who is full of thoughts of ill will should practice and develop metta, loving friendliness, in order to abandon it, and contemplation on dangers of ill will is also good. One who is full of thoughts or cruelty should practice and develop meditation on karuna, compassion, in order to abandon it and develop the thought of non-violence is also good. The thought of sensual pleasures, thought of ill will, and thought of cruelty are called wrong intentions or wrong thought. They are wholesome thoughts. So that is about the second, the path factor, the samma sankappa, the right concept. So the right concept, so the right intention is threefold, as we've discussed so far. The renunciation, the intention of renunciation, non-ill will, and harmlessness. Nekkamma, Abhyapada, and Avihimsa Sankappa. So those are the three, the Samma Sankappa, so the right intentions that we are supposed to practice. So when you learn the Dhamma, we can find that the Bodhisattvas, the Maha Bodhisattvas, they always tend to prone to develop these path factors. So that's why that when we learn the Jataka stories and all the previous birth stories of the Buddha, most of the time the Buddha, even when he was a king, that he tried to practice renunciation, giving up not only material things, even his body parts, and even sometimes his life, that he was ready to give up. But when it's come to normal people, average or the ordinary people, they are also supposed to practice renunciation, but not that scale like the Mahabodhisattva. But still, we should be prone to develop all these samma sankappa, or the right intentions. So it is a must to have the right view, as we discussed the first path factor, to develop the right intention and the rest of the path factors as well. So anything to be discussed about the second, the path factor? Okay, let's move on then. The third one, the right speech, samma vacha. And what, monks, is the right speech? Abstinence from false speech, abstinence from divisive speech, abstinence from harsh speech, abstinence from idle chatter. This is called right speech. This shows that abstinence from the fourfold verbal misconduct, like false speech, is right speech in the factor on the path. This path factor of right speech, though one in accordance with the Dhamma, is fourfold in accordance with its refraining of misconduct, as abstinence from false speech, abstinence from divisive speech, abstinence from harsh speech, and abstinence from idle chatter. In the mundane state, the practitioner refrains from consciousness of false speech, refrains from divisive speech, from another consciousness, refrain from harsh speech, from another consciousness, and refrain from idle chatter, from another consciousness. Therefore, the same one factor of the path of right speech at the beginning arises as fourfold factors separately. The supra-mundane path consciousness arises as one factor of the supra-mundane state in order to abandon all the four verbal misconduct together. In order to understand the explanation of false speech, please read Bauddhage Atpota, the manual of Buddhist bias. Yes, as we discussed before, in the ordinary level, these fourfold, the wrong speech can be avoided separately with separate mindsets. But in the supramundane level, supramundane stage, when the noble path appears with the factors, these all the fourfold misconduct, fourfold wrong words is eliminated altogether with the one, the path factors and the path consciousness. Then the right action, the Samma Kammanta. And what monks is the right action? Abstinence from destruction of life. Abstinence from taking what is not given. Abstinence from sexual misconduct. This is called right action. This shows that that the nature of abstinence from the threefold bodily misconduct, like abstinence from killing, is a factor of right action of the path. Since the description of these actions, like killing, could be understood from the book of the Manual of Buddhist, here is not explained. At the beginning, the practitioner refrained from killing, etc. From another consciousness, refrain from taking that which is not given from another consciousness, refrains from sexual misconduct from another consciousness. Therefore, this factor of the path of right action is threefold, as abstinence from killing, abstinence from taking that is which is not given, and abstinence from sexual misconduct. At the moment of supramundane path, as abandonment of defilements that cause for the performance of three kinds of unwholesome, like killing, it combines with other factors of the path and arises as one thing. Example, supramundane state. So as we discussed before, all these three bodily misconducts also can be abundant in the path consciousness and the path factors all together. But in the ordinary level, we have to avoid them, abstain from them separately with the separate consciousnesses. So that is special in the Lokuttara or the supramundane consciousnesses. So, anything to discuss about what we have been discussed so far? If not, I think we can do the rest of the next week, because the next one, the right livelihood, has a quite long description. Is it all right, Mahinda Mahatma?
Yes, Bhante.
Yes. Okay, then today we wind up here. So today, all of us that we've discussed the noble path factors, and we've generated enormous amounts of wholesome thoughts in our hearts. So now let's let's share the merits with the departed relatives. Idammi jnātīnaṁ hotu sukhitā hontu jnātayo. Idammi jnātīnaṁ hotu sukhitā hontu jnātayo. Idhammi jnātīnaṁ hotu sukhitā hontu jnātayo. Let's transfer merits to the devas as well. May all the deities accept these merits and may protect all of us. Itthavata cha amhehi sambhataṁ punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya itthavata cha amhehi sambhataṁ punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya itthavata cha amhehi sambhataṁ punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. By the power of the merits that we've generated by discussing and listening to the noble Dhamma, may all the meritorious deeds that we've generated so far lead us to supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Lots of merit to you, Bhante.
Thank you.
Much merit to you, Bhante.
Thank you.